So this morning I wanted to talk about cold approaches and why cold approaches never work. Or I should say why cold approaches over the long term never work. Often in going out, I'm sure if you're someone who enjoys the nightlife, you've seen a lot of guys approach women. Either be like the one guy approaching maybe one or two or three females, or like the groups of guys trying to walk into like another group and approach them either to interact, get the phone numbers, dance, have a drink, etc. And why is it that from a male perspective, the cold approach is the wrong approach? And the reason being is because the moment you engage with a female, she already knows that you find her attractive. And so if you're cold approaching numerous women, or if the societal norm is to cold approach women, what you'll often end up with are women who are more standoffish in interacting with men. The reason being is because cold approaches dignify to the woman that you find her very attractive. And so from the outset, or I should say for the onset of the interaction, you are at a disadvantage because you've already showed your hand, because the approach alone is to display that you're attracted to this female, right? If a woman gives me the eye and I approach her, then she already knows that I'm attracted to her because I'm approaching her. But if I cold approach a woman who hasn't seen me, I'm already at the disadvantage. At that point, it's entirely up to her whether she chooses to reject me or not at that point, right? As soon as she hasn't seen me, I'm approaching her and I say, hey, what's your name? She already automatically knows that I'm going up to her because I find her attractive. And so it puts her in the position of power within the initial approach. And so to take away that power is by only approaching women who have already, in essence, given you the go-ahead by either a stare, a smile, a glance from afar, signifying that there is an interest there. In essence, they're showing their hand first, and all you're doing is reciprocating, right? And so it always should be from the standpoint of a dominant male's perspective, is that he is in essence accepting the approval of the female from afar, and he's just letting her know that I equally share a similar attraction to you, and I'm here to approach you to get your phone number. The reason that cold approaches typically don't work, if you've seen a lot of the PUA videos, you'll see a lot of these men, they're very charismatic, they're very talkative, they're laughing, they're like pushing themselves into her space, with this, they kind of say like, oh, I'm making it known that you're comfortable invading her space. And of course, those are all things that you should not do, because all you are doing is, in essence, you are dignifying her, or you're overinflating her ego, showing how much you're willing to do to sleep with her, to get her phone number. You're kind of like entertaining her, in a way. And of course, that over the long haul, when you meet a woman that you were really interested in, you'll end up making these mistakes of how do you say, validating. You end up seeing, if you watch these men, you'll see them, they're very charismatic, they're going to great length to make her laugh, they're trying to talk in her ear, they're very smooth, they're careful with their body language, and all of this does is serve to, in essence, make the woman feel that she is overly wanted, but by what should be a simple, hi, what's your name, what's your phone number, and moving on. What really works in the long run, because the reason that I bring this up is because a lot of the PUA talk is about the initial approach, right? And yet the initial approach is the easiest portion of interacting with a female. You'll see a lot of guys talk about frame and game, etc., about approaching women and taking with women, and yet that's the easiest part of the approach of interaction with a woman, is getting her phone number. And you see guys time and time again with these very elaborate ways of engaging with females, in being very talkative, being very flirtatious, being overly touchy-feely with a lot of these women that are probably not even worth, a man's time for the most part. It's another thing it's very important to keep in mind, that we're living in a time where approaching women is the easiest that it has been in the highly sexualized dating environment that men find themselves today. Between dating apps and women's liberation and, the lack of, slut shaming and, all female behavior should be tolerated, we're living in an environment where it is super easy on a mass scale to meet women. And so if you're already experiencing problems meeting women in this environment, then if we were to move over into a patriarchal environment, or an environment where women were not as overly sexualized as they are now, you'd have an even harder time meeting women, because the easiest part of meeting a woman is the approach, because it's just attraction. That's all that it is. A woman, it's literally as easy as a woman giving you a glance from across the room, meeting eyes, locking eyes, and then walking over and saying, "Hi, what's your name? What's your number?" and walking away. It literally is that easy when it comes to meeting women, approaching women, and interacting with women on a larger scale. And of course, you always want to meet and approach women on a larger scale, because not all people are, in essence, worth meeting, worth going out with, worth spending your time, worth dating, especially in an environment where women are highly promiscuous. And for me, I need to qualify the female before I'm willing to go out on a date with her. And so for me to do that, I can't just meet one woman a day or one woman a week, when I go out, because I need to make sure that this person is worth my time, especially if you're a guy that lives a very busy lifestyle. Maybe you work a lot, maybe you have a side business, maybe you're at the gym often, maybe you like gaming, maybe you like to travel. And so for you to interact with a woman on that level where she's going to take up a portion of your time, you want to make sure that that person is worthwhile, that person is worth hanging out with. And so in essence, you need to qualify that person. But females nowadays don't have to do that, because so many males just are in their face, offering every bit of validation that they can give to this woman. And that's kind of why you see the dating environment in the way it is. Also because of the obesity epidemic that is going on within the United States for the past couple of years, or I should say for like the past few decades or so. And so you have a very small dating pool of eligible females. You have a lot of guys looking to date. And then of course you have female promiscuity, makes it that much harder to meet a quality woman. And so the only way that you'll meet a quality woman is if you are the type of man that is only looking for a quality woman in your life. And so you'll end up filtering a lot of these women that sleep around, what I call pass around chicks. Women that literally, they're at the bar every week, they're at the club every week, they're going from male friend to male friend, they have a lot of male orbiters around them. And if all you view women is this woman a 10, is this woman a 5, is this woman a 7, merely from what she looks like, from when you meet her at the club or at the bar, well then you're missing a big portion of the whole person, and what really is how to, I should say, not say score people, but I mean, a woman who sleeps around who looks really pretty, how can that woman be a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 from a male perspective, right? If she's passed around from guy to guy and she's always at the bar, she's always at the club, she dresses very promiscuously, she's making out with random guys at the bar, how could you view that woman and give that woman a high score in terms of a woman you'd want to interact with? But that's unfortunately the environment that we have today. The only way, of course, that that's going to change is if men change. If you're only interested in meeting high quality women, and if you're a man who is of integrity, women are going to want to meet you and they're going to change their behavior. Women act the way they do because of the environment that us men put them in. So if we want women to act differently, then we need to put them in a different environment. But primarily I wanted to discuss this because I know there's a lot of discussion and social anxiety about how do I approach, what is it that I need to say, do I need to be funny, do I need to be charismatic, do I need to be this really, great looking guy, do I need to have a lot of money, do these things matter? And the reality is that they don't. Nature will take its course. The easiest approach is the simplest approach, and the easiest way to meet the most amount of women so that you can screen many of these women out is by using a very simple approach of, hi, what's your name? What's your number? Thanks for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.